Hi! Hello, we are looking at repotting some tomato plants that I have been growing in my house. What I've done to grow these plants is I've actually used old laundry detergent bottles. So what I'm now looking at doing is using a fork to gently prise these tomatoes plants out of the soil, leaving as much of it on there, including the roots, and then putting them into some old plant pots that used to have other plants in that I purchased earlier on this year. In this tub, in this bowl here, we actually have tea leaves from my tea bags, which I will then mix with some additional soil from my garden after it's been sieved. The reason for that is because I've not actually been able to get any more grow bags this year, with it being the COVID-19 lockdown. Usually I would look at using grow bags to plant my tomatoes. Now some of these are actually still quite tiny, so what I will look at doing with these is just putting them in a jam jar with some water for now, and using a little bit of cotton wool or paper towel. Probably paper towel, because I actually have that to hand right here. And that's just basically to give them a little bit more time to start being a little bit more established before I put them in the garden outside, ideally in the most sunniest spot. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that paper towel stays damp, because unfortunately people do tend to forget that plants can drown if you put too much water in with them. And the reason, obviously, I like using a fork, especially when I've used little tubs like this, is because it's like a little trowel, really. It makes it very much easier to get in between the roots of the plants, because what you don't want to end up doing is damaging the root ball, especially when it's so tiny like this. Now, hang on, I should gently be able to tease it out, but anything, obviously, that's a little bit taller, I would gauge the height of the plant. Obviously, that's too big a tub at the moment. And one of the other things that I think a lot of people tend to forget is root bound. Make sure, if you are just going to use pots to plant things in, that you, just like if you have a goldfish.
Glass.
Thank you, darling. It will try to grow to the size of the bowl, or as with a plant, the tub or pot you put it in. So the more room there is for roots, the better and more established the plant is going to be. But unfortunately, not everybody has a garden, which is why even myself, for 4 years, I didn't have a garden. So what I ended up doing was basically planting everything in my window, in my room. My kitchen didn't have a window, unfortunately. It was in an apartment building. So the only window really was my balcony, which again you couldn't really stand on, so I couldn't have any plants on the balcony. So it ended up being in my bedroom. Whereas now I'm very lucky, because I do have quite a big garden, and whilst I have this property that I'm still renting, I want to make the most of it. So I've gently managed to, I think there's one more just there, to tease out the tomato plants from the bulbs. And again, when you are looking at planting things, remember, some things actually thrive better with competition, and some don't. And then you also have something that's called companion planting, where, if you want something to grow well, look at what is best to plant it with. Sometimes that might be to add flavour to the food that you're growing, or it might be to cut down on the amount of parasites or even disease. So one of the things that I have learned is that if you plant roses with garlic, I believe it can help prevent black spot. If anyone wants to post any gardening tips, I'm more than happy to learn more. So yes, there we go. Like I said, I'm currently planting out my tomatoes. Probably a little bit late in the year compared to most people. But at the same time, with the climate change that everyone keeps going on about, I don't see why these can't flourish right through till maybe September of this year. I don't know a lot about tomatoes. I've never really grown them before. This is my first time. So thank you for watching, and if you have any comments, please don't hesitate to put them, or to subscribe to my YouTube page, and enjoy the summer.